What's up, everybody? We are back in it today. Back in it to win it. Alright, there's the chat. There's some other stuff. Let's go get on to my YouTube and update all my stats. Can't believe it's the 22nd. Cray cray. Cray cray all day. Alright, let's get in here. Change a couple of things. Change this. And boop. Boop. Alright, we're all done with that.
Got everything?
So it is time to get on over to our island. Let's spend up some... words are hard. Spend up some focus on our plants here. Won't be too long till I need to go ahead and buy a new... like an upgrade to my island. Place a new one of these down. Gather up everything. Hey! Level 23 mastery. An herbalist. Ooh, 24 mastery on herbalist. Isn't that exciting? I'm pretty excited. Pretty freaking excited. Okay. Let's actually water these this time. Bammo. All watered up. Now let's do something else here. I was going to go out into the outlands and stuff, but honestly, that's not what I'm gonna do. It's the weekend. Things get crazy on the weekend. And I don't really want to be going out into the outlands to run around where there's a bajillion people every day. So I think today, I might actually just go stick to the mists. I was going to do a variety of content, and that may still end up happening. I'm not 100% sure. But to get started, we're going to go to the mists today. Now we're going to do that in the same way that we normally do. We're not going to go to Bricelion. We're going to go out into the outlands here, because anything we get in the mists will just sell better in the royal cities than it does in Bricelion, because there's just so many people who go to the mists from Bricelion. And it just creates a market where everything is just kind of cheaper. The market is a little more active, but it is quite a bit cheaper. And I want to be out here in the Royal Continent, where maybe I can get a really good price for things. Ooh, we started up right next to the spider here. In a tier 6 zone, we should be just fine to kill this spider. There is a possibility that something bad will happen. Somebody will see us killing the spider and come nuke us. Ooh, yep, like that person right there. Darn. That person's a little too strong for us, I think. A little too strong for us. That's too bad. But that's okay. We've got other points of interest running around here. All we gotta do is go to these other areas, see what we can see. We're gonna kill this because why not? super quick. It's not necessarily that I needed that for money purposes, but I did need that for growing my adepts. There we go. My adept ore miner is now 22, because remember, you get a bonus to gathering speed and yield, and that's just extremely important for the future. Because if I ever see, an 8 point or a 4.4 or a 4.3, I want to be able to gather it and get just as much yield as I possibly can out of it, as fast as I possibly can. Hey, now we're seeing a chest over here. Chest opens in a couple of seconds. Hopefully that nerd doesn't find me like he did at the spider. What do we got? 21k, not great, not bad, not great though. This has been a pretty bad area here. Okay, that person's just gathering. They're in all their gathering gear. Don't necessarily have to worry about them. Unless they're carrying around 2 gear sets, which basically nobody does. Because if you're in gathering gear, you don't want to have to wait. What the heck happened up here? Whoops. Why is this person, like, chasing me down? I'm missing a little health, so I don't necessarily want to fight this person straight away. I'd like to get some health back. It's probably a terrible idea for me to fight this person. Yeah. I don't really know what's going on here, but we're gonna fight him. Not sure why I got 2 people chasing me now, but okay. I think this person went after this other... Oop. There's the person I was chasing. There's the person chasing him. Got him. Nice work. Ooh. That fight had me feeling all kinds of crazy. It's funny to me that gatherer tried to get in and rat that. That was an interesting fight. It was a good fight. Had a lot of fun with that. Let's eat my food here. Just want to get this camp cleared. Before the timer runs out here, so that I can get this chest. Because I want my chest. I didn't really get a ton from that person that I killed. As far as currency goes, they didn't really have a lot. Oops. Oh, this is just a fame chest. Okay, I'm having some issues here. There we go. We got it. I am definitely not strong enough to pick up this wisp over here. Especially since I know that there was at least 1,400 running around at some point. Because I ran into them. Last thing I need is to get chased down by somebody significantly higher IP than me. Especially since I barely came out on top of that fight with that archer, who was similarly lower IP to me. And I definitely should have been able to take them a little easier. That kite is just super good. So many knockbacks and stuff. Really hard to overcome. Definitely want to grab this up. Okay. don't know why I would want victory emote charges, but sure. Guess that can be a thing that exists in my life. Alright, well, I'm not finding an enchanted mist. Mostly probably because I was kind of preoccupied for a couple of minutes there, but that's fine. We'll go back into a regular mist. Please mount. And we'll just kind of go from here. Wow, can't even believe I survived that. Holy cow, that was dangerous. Ooh. It may have been possible there if I had, if I had been at full health when that attack started, that may have actually been a possibility to fight that. I felt pretty good about the little bit of that fight that I was involved in. Before I bailed out. But I just didn't start that fight with nearly enough health. I hate these heretic archers and their auto route. It's so obnoxious. I don't know when that got added or why they use it more if they didn't use it as much before or what. But it's upsetting. Alright, some more tomes. Not bad. Not great, but not bad. I'm enjoying that quite a bit. Hmm. Okay, I could have fought that person. Wouldn't have been a big problem. But, I didn't. Let's see what we got going on down here. Here's my chest. Just running around murdering heretics. Feels very medieval. I'm just like straight up not even gonna fight the archers anymore. I don't even want to deal with it. Is that another tome cache? It looks like it is. Ugh. Tome cache didn't have squat in it. It was awful. That was awful. I think there's just this one more POI over here. And it's going to be all about finding their stuff. not gonna fight that archer, but I will fight. Nope. We'll fight this person right here. Oh, you sucky, sucky doo-doo head. Bye-bye. Every time you get into a bad PvE situation, somebody is there to come try and fight you. Every single time. Ooh. Ooh. I see an entrance to the Abbey. Very nice. I love Nightfall Abbey. I haven't been in here, honestly, in a couple of days, I don't think. Alright. Oh my goodness, seriously? $14.97, he's all maxed out. Yeah, I definitely can't fight this. For sure, for sure. They hit me with something that stopped me from moving, though. I missed my exit just a second ago. Yeah, I went the wrong way to try and get to my exit. That's gonna end up being my death here. Go, go, go. Ah, oh, you mother... Son of a bitch, dude. Can't believe I went the wrong way at the end there. One of these days I'm gonna get my head out of my ass, but it is not today. Not even close. What am I looking for? I'm looking for weapons. Why am I in my armors when I already have full armor? You stupid piece of garbage. Right, we gotta buy a weapon and some mounts, a mount, and yeah. I think that'll be it for a little while here. And the rest of my stuff, poison and stuff like that. So let's get some poisons. Let's go for tier 6s. Buy 10 of those. We want some roast. Tier 7s. Buy a couple of those. Then we want spear. Melee. Spear. We're gonna do a tier 6. Enchantment 2. That's pretty expensive. Enchantment 1. Do we want a regular spear or do we want another daybreak spear? Let's just get a regular spear. And then let's take a look at mounts. We just want the saber tooth.
My pleasure.
Okay. We go here. Let's get back. Oh,
Want to trade?
forgot about my tools. Let's just make a loadout, actually.
Satisfied?
It's just a tool loadout. Yay. I'm gonna go to pickaxe, tier 8. Oop. Then we're going to sickle, tier 5. Then we're going to skinning knife, tier 4. Then we're going to stone hammer, tier 4. Then tracking toolkit, tier 4. Then wood axe, tier 4. Save changes, close it down, go in here, go to loadouts, select loadout tools, search it. Now we don't actually need the tracking toolkit right now. So then we're going to go ahead and buy all of those. And perfect. Julia VT. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the channel. I love to see those new faces in the chat. How are you? Thank you very much for the follow. Really appreciate that. How are things? How is life, the universe, and everything? You know, I'm doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. Get some caffeine in me this morning, get some pretty good sleep last night. So I am very awake, very ready for my day. Now I just need to find a freaking wisp so that I can go in these mists. And there we are. What about you? What are you getting up to today? Got our objective completed. Nice. Some more tome caches. Not exactly what I'm looking for. Especially since I just lost about 2 mil. I'm more concerned about getting more currency back. Especially because I only have 19 days to get my premium again. And I only have a little less than 8 mil. Which isn't even a third of the way there. So definitely need to be picking up the pace on the old currency. A big part of that is my fault. I've made some pretty big mistakes that have cost me quite a bit of currency. But, you know, that's fine. We'll get there. If we have to, we'll do a couple of days of just straight up gathering. Because you can just spend lots of time gathering to get your premium if you need to. Fairly simple. Works very well. Like I just need one little enemy here. We get another green chest with some tomes in it. Ain't that about a bummer? Alright, last POI here. And then we're just wandering around. Oh, I didn't actually want to fight that enemy. But that's fine. We got him, I guess. Get my mount back out here. Hey, another green chest. With some fame tomes in them. Jeez, can I please have anything but green chests? Like, at least just some of the time. I mean, I understand the green chests are the most common, but when every single chest in a zone is a green, that doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good at all. Now we're just looking for an enchanted wisp, so that maybe I can go to something higher than a tier 6 node. We are at a pretty good spot with our gear. So we just need to find ourselves another wisp. Since we didn't make any currency off of this at all, which is kinda crazy. Please give me an enchanted wisp. I need an enchanted wisp. Oh, please. Pretty please. Give me an enchanted wisp. Why is there no enchanted wisp? Just running around like a nerd. Hello, Julia. Welcome back. You know, this is the second time you've come in here and asked me these same questions. I'm starting to think that you're a robot. But I'm good. How are you? I am a robot. I do not even know what you were saying. All I do is repeat the same things over and over again. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to find an enchanted wisp, so I'm just going to go in this regular one. What do we got going on over here? Show me this POI. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness, you must be joking. Don't mess with each other. Leave Survival Hermit alone. I think we're good. Get wrecked, nerds. Get wrecked. Are you guys fighting each other? I think that's so cute. You guys are just adorable. That was a close one. There's a whole lot of fighting going on over here. This is kind of crazy. Everybody's kind of after me because they're all fairly low IP. And I'm quite a bit higher. So they're kind of trying to get me. Oof. There's a whole lot of fighting right there. This person's crazy. They're just running around without their mount on. What a psycho. What an absolute psycho. It was pretty fun. I honestly can't believe that I didn't end up dead. I was real close there. Real close. It was kind of crazy. I'm still a little jittery from that. Got my blood pumping. All right, let's go get our chest. Hey, this one's a blue one, nice. Can actually get some stuff. 27k even. My goodness. What am I gonna do with all that currency? Can't even buy one of my pieces of gear with 27k. How friggin' useless. I can't believe how many people were over there fighting. There were like 4 or 5 people in that brawl. Are there more people over here fighting again? Oh, it's this person with this. Ooh, okay. I don't really feel like fighting you again. You kind of got me last time. I think I'll just leave you alone. I don't need to get my booty waxed again. Still a little tender from last time. Oh, I wish I could get that. Was there seriously no? Ooh. It's a spider. Going after the spider. Nice. 34K? Well, that was less than exhilarating. What's this do? Just a crafting item. Got it. Just a crafting item. Okay. Oh, shoot. Yeah, let's go in this abbey. Nightfall Abbey. Heck yeah. All right. Got that. Got that. Now we just keep on going. Nightfall Abbey is one of the most interesting always on PvP zones I've ever seen. I really, really like this format and layout. What I would like to see is maybe a procedurally generated version. Because if the layout wasn't always the same, I feel like things would be a little more interesting when people were running away and when people were chasing. Life would get a little more strange if you didn't have the advantage of knowing the layout. Because you could run into walls and all kinds of stuff that you don't do if you know the layout really well. I don't know every bit of layout for the entirety of the Abbey. I mostly stick to the main thoroughfares. So once I get outside of those main thoroughfares, I start to have a little trouble navigating. But even that much kind of gives me an advantage in some situations. So I'd really like to see maybe a procedurally generated version of this that didn't have that advantage. I think could be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun. I'll poison at that thing, because and we actually need to eat a food too. Alright. Moving through the Nightfall Abbey. We've gotten 5 rewards so far, not a single one of them a chest. It's fairly upsetting. Hmm. 6 rewards. And no chest. Where are my chests, Nightfall Abbey? Why are you doing this to me? Please. Please let me have my chest. Silly archer skeleton man. Throw poison at you. You have been poisoned. What are you gonna do now? Nothing. Just die. It's time to die. Well, 8 rewards, no chests. Now I'm starting to get a little upset. What are you doing to me, game? What are you doing to me? I want my chests. I want my reward for my incredible PvP murdering skills. Or PvE murdering skills, not PvP. I do not have incredible PvP murdering skills. They are mediocre to lackluster at best. Got him. Give me a chest. You suck, game. You freaking so somebody already got this one. Ooh. Bet you that means they're down here at this chest. Let's go see who they are. Go see how powerful they might be. Oh, there's a chest right here even. Hmm. This is all very interesting. I might actually have to go up that. Yeah, I think I have to go up here. Oh. This one hasn't been opened yet. Or this one is available. I thought it had a minute. But that was that other one. Nice. Let's go see if there's anybody over here. Probably it's down this little path right here. Oh, nope, it's outside. Bummer. Okay, we're close. Nice, nice. I don't see... Oh, there's a person. They're only 1,000 IP. Are they gonna try and deny me this chest here? Or are they just gonna let me have it? They're gonna try and deny me. They've got a sword. Oh, they're using death givers, okay. This is actually a pretty tough fight. They had some sort of buff going on while we were fighting there for a second. Ouch, nice fight. Death givers are so hard. Oh my goodness. I should have been able to take that person. Should have been able to take that person. Much fucking invisibility though. Oh my god. So aggravating. The structure of this game makes it basically pointless to play if you're not really good. Because you're just constantly losing currency. And that's kind of directly the opposite of what you need to be doing. If you're not constantly increasing your bankroll in this game, then you're just kind of failing. This game could be so good, and instead it is so ass. What to do, what to do, what to do. I don't know.
Don't be shy.
Can't go out into the open world. See, we don't need that. We don't need that. How is this worth $1 million? Why is this bag so expensive? I think not. And we don't need the boar. Instead, we're going to want Swift Claw. And a bag, which I have plenty of bags, so no big deal. Bags and capes. Okay. Let's get in there. Let's go out into the open world, I guess. Let's see what happens out here. Maybe people have just migrated back to the mists. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I just know that I'm dying too much, and I don't like it. I guess that's kind of the way of the mists, though, is you can pretty much guarantee that if you go into the mists or the abbey, you're going to fight someone. And so, you know, at least out here, as long as you stay in zones that don't have a ton of people. Well, we were at 0 to 5 or 0 to 5, but now we're at 16 or 6 to 15. So I don't know if some people are just passing through here or what exactly is going on. We're gonna see the... Yeah, okay, F this. My biggest concern is that there was just a person sitting in this zone with some sort of a radar, waiting for somebody to pop in and then tell everybody, like, hey, there's people over here. And now they're just chasing me down or something. So they just brought all their buddies over. I'm not sure that's what's happening as of yet. I feel like it's a distinct possibility. I just keep seeing people everywhere. Oh my gosh, why are there so many people? We just gotta get back up to our safe portal here. This person's trying to get out ahead of me. But we're gonna make it, no prob. Back to the safe portal. They were almost certainly using some sort of a radar or something. Because literally the minute I got out there, tons of people suddenly joined that area. And then they were all just on top of me in no time. And then straight for me. But whatever. We'll go out again. We're in a zone with 0 to 5 people. Let's see what happens. Maybe just straight up no people here. This zone is pretty obscure. Out in the middle of nowhere here. Which I'm totally fine with. As long as it means I don't have people chasing me down everywhere. Again, 16,000 people. Gonna come after me. Ooh, nice. A 4.2 stone. I'm gonna get all this. Hopefully. This whole 4.2 stone is going to be worth about 1%, which is honestly pretty good. Just 30 picks. That'd be just 10 stones. 10 normal stones being worth 1.5, or being worth 1%, which is impressive. I do like watching this thing gather. That person's naked, which screams scout to me, I guess. Why else would you be riding around in the outlands? Bear? No gear, no nothing, just a horse? I'm gonna keep watching this. If it ticks over to 6 to 15 anytime soon. Looks like we might be okay. Maybe that wasn't a scout. Maybe it's just a naked. Not sure why a person would just be running around in the outlands with nothing. I mean, you're not transporting anything. You're not doing anything. Maybe they're trying to get out to get out or something like that. I don't know. People don't make no dang sense to me. Not ever. Looks like I forgot to put my weapon skills on. Whoops. Everything else good? I was about to say, I thought I checked. But I must have just checked the armors. Not the weapons. Because I'm a dope. You got to eat my food. And forget to click that. That was not the enemy I was expecting to come after me. Alright, we got our map here. Get our solo tome cache. Nice, nice, very nice. And let's go beat our dungeon. Boss lair. Let's go kill the boss lair. Ooh, there's another map that just spawned. We'll be back for that. In just a tidbit. What is that, 5.1 ore? We don't care about that. If it was 5.2 or 5.3, we might actually go get it though. Just for the sake of upping our specialization in tier 5 ore. Very important to get your spec up for your different ore tiers. Or your different gathering tiers of any type. Because, you know, we gotta add to the tedium of leveling up your gathering. Because crafting is totally useless. The more I think about it, the more and more salty I get about how bad crafting systems are. And how little they've been innovated over the years. It makes me very upset. Alright. I'm just gonna claim this because I can't drop it, so who cares? Aw. Alright. Guess it's time to go get this boss. Hopefully I get better than just some random blue chests. Give me the good chests. Come on now. Oh. Looks like I'm just gonna get blues. Whatever. Or poison in it just to make it go a little faster. Zoop. Gotcha, punk. Gotcha, punk. Nothing really in any of these chests. Can I please stop doing that? That'd be great. But I need you to work, hands. No, wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. Wasn't great. Yeah, I got a little over 100k there. Which, for a tier 5 blue chest, honestly, it's about all I could ask for. Gonna go get this second chest here, or this second map here. If it's still active, which maybe it isn't. Doesn't look like it is. Nope, somebody else got it. That's too bad. Makes me really sad. We've got 6 to 15 people in here now. Instead of just the 0 to 5 that I started with. Probably gonna get ganked here soon. Probably gonna get ganked here soon. I'd say there's a decent chance that out of the 5 other people minimum in this zone, at least one of them's running some sort of a radar. It's a Friday. It's getting towards the afternoon. People are starting to get off of work. It's time for all the cheaters to come out and play. Looks like I've gotten all of the points of interest, or at least looked at all the points of interest here. And it doesn't look like I have any more stuff that can go on. Let's take a look at the map here. We can go up to another tier 5 zone. Let's actually go check that out. I want to go see if this tier 5 zone up here will have any value. Primarily, I want to see how many people are in it. Master's Druid Sandal, nice. People just be slamming car doors outside my house. I hate it. I freaking hate it. We got 6 to 15 people here too. Ain't that something special? Inactive. Bummer. It bothers me that they put solo content out here. Especially because the solo content is the best solo content you can do. And then there's nothing that protects you as a solo. Not only that, you can't do the solo content as a group. Because if you have more than 3 people in your group and you do these solo zones, then you actually get way less reward. So they're specifically trying to encourage people to come out here in extremely small groups or by themselves. And then they leave you open to be attacked by, any number of people. So the game design here, I don't understand what the decision-making process is that makes you say, okay, let's try and get a bunch of people to run out into the outlands all by themselves, but then let's also make it a place where guilds roam around and kill people. That whole development thought process makes literally no sense to me. Why would you want people to be out here by themselves at all? If they were going to always end up encountering large groups. I could understand if, you know, you had a little more control over whether or not a fight happened. If it wasn't so easy to trap a person, dismount them and fight them with lots of people, you know, like a group of 7 or 8, makes it extremely simple to force somebody into combat. And only very rarely can you actually get out of that. But even so, that's not really engaging or entertaining gameplay, right? You've created a gameplay loop where a significant portion of your player base is constantly just playing tag, basically, with a huge portion of your player base. Yeah, the more I think about the way the Outlands is set up, the more concerned I am. It just doesn't seem like a positive system, really at all. I think these people might be together. I think they're in the same guild. I'm not gonna try and fight 2 people. It seems like a really good way to die. But, yeah, the more I'm concerned about the design philosophy that went into it, and I really think that just incorporating the factions into the Outlands is the best way to go about fixing some of the issues with the Outlands. Because it really just is about having some sort of support that you don't necessarily need to formally create groups with. Right? If I'm out in the open world, and I'm somewhere near my faction's territory or my faction's starting zone, then if I get attacked, there are likely to be people around who are in my faction who I can then rely on to maybe help me in a fight. So unless it's somebody who's extremely powerful compared to all of us, then I should be able to at least get some sort of assistance escaping or killing whoever it is that attacked me. And that's the only position or the only time that I see this ambush PvP style that they've got going on being at all interesting for the ambushee. Right now, ambushing somebody is the most fun thing about PvP in Albion Online. Starting a fight from a really advantaged position and then just knowing that you're going to get the kill and running somebody down and killing them is hilariously entertaining. But for every one of those interactions where a single person enjoys that interaction, there is a person on the other side that does not enjoy that interaction because it's never going to feel good to get jumped while you're in the middle of a PvE encounter where you're already at half health and then not be able to escape and just die. That is never going to feel good. And there's at least one person in every ambush combat that is on the receiving side of that. So even though there's usually a lot more attackers than there are defenders, at least one person every time comes away with a really bad experience. And so I think the way you could mitigate that is, even though you wouldn't always be able to find somebody to help you, if you were consistently staying near your Royal City's portal town, you could consistently find people to help you in those ambush situations. Maybe not every time, but consistently. That's all we really need to make the ambush playstyle of this game not quite so detrimental to fun, is for sometimes you to be able to get some assistance and maybe turn that fight around and win. But as things stand right now, you've got all this solo content out here. You're being encouraged to come out here and play by yourself. And then simultaneously, everybody else is also being encouraged to come out here as a group, to run around as a group, and to kill you as a group. So you're just being encouraged to come out here and make yourself an easy target with little to no potential defensive opportunities. No support, nobody who's going to jump on your side and maybe help you turn the tides of that fight, nothing. You're just SOL all by yourself. So yeah, I really think that they need to incorporate the faction system into the Outlands. I know that the Outlands is supposed to be this lawless, crazy, whatever area where anything goes and the guilds run everything and blah, 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 but that's garbage. It doesn't work. It's never worked. It's the thing that holds back Albion Online the most from being a more popular game. Now that we can get tier 6 materials in the blue zone or the yellow zone, I think that's actually a really good thing, because there are going to be a lot of people who are just rocking tier 6 gear, like my gear. You can get all the way up to a tier 8 plus equivalent in tier 6 by using enchanted tier 6. And so now that I can do that in the yellow zone, that's a very positive thing for me, right? I can get all the way up to an equivalent of 8.1 without ever leaving the safe zones. And I feel comfortable playing in an 8.1 equivalent out in the Outlands. Whereas before, you were only ever getting to an 8.0 if you were using 5.3. And that was, it was still fine, But I like the idea of being able to even go up another tier above that. Because things are just getting stronger. You know, we have 8.4 now. Just people in general have had lots of time to upgrade their specs and stuff. We have 120 spec now. So just the players are getting stronger and stronger. There's a little bit of a curve going on there. And so giving the opportunity, ooh, nice, for people to be able to get a little higher value, a little higher IP, without having to leave the safety of the safe zones, I think is pretty positive for the game. But really, I would like to see, what is this? 5.1, okay. Really, I would just like to see a little more community being built from the game system side instead of being built from the player side. Because player-built communities are kind of ass. And the reason is that player-built communities are often built around PvP and around, like, trying to win something. When you're trying to win, when you build a community, you start to exclude a lot of people. And the reason you want to exclude people is because, you know, you have a limited number of possible openings. Right? You can only have so many people in a guild or a community. And you have to have good players in order to win. And so they become very, very exclusionary. And they, because of that, because there's a limited number of spaces in those guilds, guilds that have good players and reputations of winning, they don't have to have a good reputation for being like a good guild, for being, you know, good people. They just have to have a reputation for winning. And if you have a reputation for winning in a game where communities are constantly looking to win, and where winning is your condition for growth, right, where you get resources and equipment and stuff like that, when you have structures like that and then you allow the players to build the communities, then the communities become extremely, extremely toxic because of how competitive they have to be to continue their character growth. And it becomes almost impossible to join them without, you know, offering up tons of time or stuff or whatever, because you have to be able to prove your worth. And so because of that, you end up having to, you know, do a lot of stuff to pad your stats, maybe in solo play, or you have to do something to get yourself to a point where those people want to come and include you. Right, my total fame is 58 million, but my fame from killing players isn't even 1 million yet. I would never be able to join a guild at this point. It's funny to me that I have more fame from killing players than I do from gathering, though. That's not normally the way that goes for me. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more it's kind of freaking me out that they built so much stuff out here in the Outlands for solo players. Knowing full well that those solo players would always be fighting lots of people. cannot understand the game design decision behind that. Why would you encourage people to come out here all by themselves into an area where large groups of roaming, murdering psychopaths play the game? Doesn't even make any sense. And I mean, I'm still doing it, but I'm not doing it because this is entertaining. I'm doing it because this is just way better loot and fame per hour than, for example, going into the mists. Like, way better. There's almost no point in going in the mists anymore, because you get these encampments, right? And in these encampments, you already get better loot than you did in the mists, because you get loot bonuses and stuff for the quality of the zone. So especially in the tier 5 and 6 zones, the loot here is way better than the loot in the tier 6 mists. But even as you tier up into the tier 7 and 8 zones, the loot is still way better than the mist zones. Minus the fact that in the mists, you're going to get access to way more higher tier resources. Because out here in the outlands, they kind of get camped out. But still, you're losing so much. To go play the mists, when you should be coming out here to do the outlands. And the fact that that is being encouraged so hard is going to be really detrimental. Because a lot, we've only had this content for a little while. And so I don't think there are quite as many groups just running around ganking. But there's going to come a point here fairly soon where people realize that the absolute best way to make currency is to gank solos doing these encampments. Because it's the best way to make currency as a solo. It's the best way to make fame as a solo while you're making currency. It's just a really, really good thing to be doing out here. And I mean, I run into tons of people out here doing this stuff every single time I do it. So there's plenty of people out here. You get 5 or 6 people together, you run around finding people and killing them at these camps as a big group. I mean, you could turn a nice little profit. Especially if you were doing it in like the tier 8 zones, which I think is where a lot of that is concentrated right now. You see it a lot less in some of these lower tier zones, but especially in the higher tier zones and the higher quality zones. You're just never going to be able to do the solo content there because of those roaming groups, unless you're just super good. And I think that was a pretty huge misstep by SBI to try and promote people. Try and promote people coming out into this place by themselves, when we know full well that there's safety in numbers. They should basically always be in a group out here. I think it's ultimately going to actually reduce player numbers. I think there will be a brief uptick in numbers, and I think there probably has been a brief uptick in numbers from, players coming back to play the new content because the new content is so lucrative. But I feel like I make quite a bit of currency out here doing this. I think what those new players are going to start to realize is they're not actually making more currency. they're getting more currency worth of items and then they're dying with it. And they're losing it a lot more. Because not only are you encouraging solo players to come out into the Outlands, you're encouraging solo players to come out into the Outlands and be in some very, very specific spots on the map. And you make them such easy targets that way. I mean, there are only like 5 places on this map where somebody knows that I'm gonna be. If they come out here and look for somebody who's playing solo. And there's just nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do out here for me. Yeah, and just the more I think about it, the more I realized that the system really kind of screwed over solo players. Even though it seemed like it was going to be a great opportunity for solos to maybe finally be able to do some stuff in the Outlands, you really don't want solos going into the Outlands, because that's not what the Outlands is designed for. Right? The Outlands is not solo friendly. And unless you want to, put in the effort to make the Outlands solo friendly, then you need to stop making content that encourages solos to come out here. Because you're doing them an incredible disservice by making their best possible currency per hour out here. And I don't know how accurate Swole Benji's data is, but Swole Benji's pretty constantly talking about a huge percentage of players who play Albion Online that primarily play it solo. It's way more than half. At least it was the last time I heard Swole Benji mention the percentage. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was way more than half of the players. And again, I didn't fact check that data or anything like that, but if that's true, then, you're now putting a huge percentage of your players at an incredible disadvantage and sort of turning them into food for your smaller portion of players who play as groups. Hey, what's up, Quizza? How are you today? How's it going? Yeah, happy weekend, indeed. Of course, all that really means for me in this game is that I got more people trying to kill me all the time. Doesn't look like there's any more POIs out here. We got a tier 6 and a tier 7. Let's go down to this tier 6 zone and see what is up. See what's up down here. I've got the confirmation that I've graduated, even though I don't know what's next. Oh, nice. Graduated, I assume college? Or did you just graduate high school? graduated my master's, so I guess uni. Oh, okay. Got it, got it. So you were a post-grad. Good for you. What'd you get your master's in? Double masters in data and business. Wow. Somebody really likes going to school.
In life, you torture Albion. In death, you feed it.
So are you wanting to go into like marketing or what's the goal? Okay. Something in data analytics. I want to work for video games. That's the only thing I like. Okay. What kind of data analytics does a video game maybe need? I mean, I guess honestly, um, you don't specifically have a degree in economics, but economics is basically data plus business, right? Market trends are your data, and then business is sort of understanding the human element of, you know, why certain markets might fluctuate or operate in a certain way because of the way people interact with those markets. So, you know, you could try and find some work, maybe working on the economy or the economic structure of video games. Not just creating those structures, but monitoring those structures over time. Because I think one of the biggest problems that a lot of MMOs have is they'll hire an economist to create an economic roadmap for them. Then they won't have anybody necessarily watching how that market unfolds and making changes to certain aspects of the game based on how the markets are being affected. So, yeah, an understanding of data analytics and basic business principles, or even advanced business principles, I suppose, since you have your master's, would probably be a really big deal there to be able to do that. Maybe make economies in video games that don't suck. Because let's face it, every video game economy in the world right now is just absolute trash. You could maybe work on the production side of things with analyzing player trends and stuff like that in games. So, you know, analyzing what genres players play, what types of players play certain genres, and helping come up with ideas that focus on those trends. So instead of working on games that exist, you know, working on helping create new games. I mean, that's kind of, you really could change things all by yourself. Because that's kind of how markets work, right? Good idea gets out there, and it starts making lots of money, and it starts getting lots of praise. Oh, there's 16 to 50 people out here yet? Yeah, I'm freaking leaving. I'm not dealing with this garbage. This is how you die. Yeah, but I mean, you come up with a good idea, you make something good happen. And then it really will change the face of gaming because everybody will copy you. Because you got the magic formula, you know? So sure, you could change everything. But pretty please, if you want to change something, change freaking video game economies. Specifically MMO economies. Because they're absolute dog water. Every single one of them sucks. I'm getting chased. Oh no. Not getting chased anymore. Good deal. Good deal.
Honest prices.
I am not going to try. I'm going to sit here and keep playing video games and then complain about them until somebody else fixes them so that I can keep playing them. Because I'm a bum and I just want to play. Alright. I think it's time for a little something to eat here. I'm getting a little hungry. So I'm going to go eat some peanut butter and jelly tacos. Also, today has been thoroughly disappointing. From an income perspective. No relaxing, Quizza. You get on it right now. You fix my video games today. Gosh darn it. You're not allowed to take breaks anymore. But anyway, I'm going to go use the restroom and get a little something to eat. And then, honestly, we might start gathering for the rest of this stream because we're just not making any currency running around out in the open world right now. There's too many people. And as a solo, that just is no bueno. So, we'll see. I'll be right back, though. Alright, we back. Alright. Now that the eating is all taken care of, we're gonna dump all this stuff back in here. Get rid of some of these things that I don't need. And then we're going to see about... We don't need to sell this. Gonna see about going somewhere else and doing some gathering. So the best place to gather the old fiber is Thetford, I believe. So we're gonna go ahead and teleport over there. Actually, I don't need my spectral boar for that, I don't think. And that'll just make the teleport cost more expensive. A regular boar, I do. Let's get us a regular boar. Then we're gonna go sell this odds and ends that I don't need.
Want to trade?
Quick sell. Don't sell that. Sell all the rest of the stuff. Sure. Whatever.
Satisfied?
I can get you anywhere. Let's go.
And let's get teleported here. Hey, congratulations. Very happy for you. Glad that you're going to be able to play your video game soon.
Welcome, friend.
Alright, we need tier 5 harvesting garb. Buy. We need tier 5 harvesting backpack. Buy. We need tier 5 cap. Buy. And we need tier 5 boots. Buy. Alright, then we need a bag. Oh, sure, we'll just buy a tier 5 bag, why not? I guess we should probably bring a spear. And an offhand. We're going to be in pretty low tier zones, so I'm not terribly concerned about the difficulty of all this stuff. So we're just going to bring a torch because it's cheap.
See you later.
Yeah, I think that should be everything I need. Yeah, so we're just going to go out 2 zones here. We're going to hit up some gathering. And get this up to 20% towards our tier 5 here. Which we're currently at like 10%. And then we'll maybe see about getting everything else up to almost its next tier. But by tomorrow, we should have enough points to go ahead and tier this up to tier 6, which I really want to do. Thought I saw an enchanted node there. Yeah, I will be eating the pie. What's up, Fisher? AKA Tenley. Yeah, as soon as I get into the zone that I'm actually going into, I'll eat the pie. Because I'll be getting all of the nodes, not just the enchanted nodes, but I want to make sure I get the enchanted nodes as I go through, because why not? I actually have a route out here that I really like. Alright. Please jump off. And eat pie. How is everything going for you over there on the European servers? Find yourself any cool people to play with? Oh, dang. That's a good deal. That's a real good deal. Good for you. Weeks to power up my gear to 100 spec. Oh, nice. I mean, depending on how much you play, 2 weeks should be enough. But I spent this 2 weeks to gather and then leave. What a jerk. What a jerk. I heard that. I definitely agree. What did I just get? I did 1,000 of something. Let's see. Gather 1,000 resources in the swamp region. Nice. Ooh. That's even the tier I'm working towards right there. Good deal. Good deal. Right now I'm just working on getting everything up. Working on getting gathering up. Working on getting specs up. Working. Getting my butt kicked over and over and over again every time I PvP anybody. You know, All those good things. It's kind of at a point now where I need to get all of my gathering specs up so that I can go um, do stuff out in the tier 8 zones. But I need all my gathering specs up so that when I go out into the tier 8 zones, I can gather all of the good resources that I find. Because that will pretty drastically increase how much currency I make while being out there. And that will help pay for the more expensive sets that I need to be using in order to beat the PvE stuff out there. So I'm kind of stuck gathering for a while, I think. So I can go do some of that. Hopefully. I don't really want to bring a tier 8 gather set with me. What I really want to do is go out there in my regular PvEVP set. But I want to go into a really high tier set so that I can go beat the camps in the tier 8 zones. And then I want to, just bring my tools with me and go gather any tier 8s that I see as sort of supplemental income. Because, if you see like an 8.2 node out there, even if you only get a couple of picks, that's, hundreds of K. Or if you end up in a legendary mist or something like that, if you don't have all of your gatherings up, then you just can't make nearly as much use out of it as you can with all of your gathers. Well, and so before I would have thought the same thing, but now that we have all of those encampments and stuff out there, they give you the boss layers and, all those extra chests and all that stuff that you can get. I think fighting the PvE stuff is just really important. And so I don't think taking a gather set is necessarily a great idea. Especially in the Outlands. The higher tier gathering nodes tend to be picked clean already. So you don't have nearly as much opportunity to gather up at higher tiers that you normally would. At least that's my impression. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the extra percent. I mean, I wouldn't bring the pork pie or anything probably with me. Maybe I would bring some pork pies and just switch to them. That'd probably be the only thing I did.
How did I know?
I don't think that being too focused in the end game is necessarily the best way to make currency. And it's certainly not, I don't think, the best way to have fun. You know, you need to be able to break up the boredom. And if you don't have the ability to engage with something while you're out there, then instead of being a positive, you know, you see an 8.1 node and you can't gather it. You know, normally that's supposed to be a positive experience. Oh, I see an 8.1 node. That's so exciting. Let me go get that. But if you see it and you don't have the spec to be able to gather it and you're not bringing the tools with you, then it becomes, oh, an 8.1 node. I can't gather that. And it hurts your enjoyment instead of helping it. So I think just being able to be prepared. And I feel like the same thing would happen if you went out and all you had was gathering gear on. You know, if you saw an 8.3 dungeon, like a solo dungeon out there or something, then in your gathering gear, you probably wouldn't be able to fight the solo dungeon. And so the same effect would happen. You'd be like, oh, you know, I see a solo dungeon, but I can't fight it. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just important to have all of your options open while you're out there. And even though it makes things a little more expensive per set, I think ultimately you'll end up making so much more currency that it won't really matter. Yeah. For sure, for sure. I mean, if you're worried about gathering animals, probably some sort of staff. Maybe the fire staff. Or some sort of bow. One of the long bows. Because you want to be able to pull, you know, a bunch of animals over near you. If you're going to be doing skinning. Gathering is so peaceful. So simple. Just gather, gather, gather. Maxilla with the follow over on Twitch. Welcome to the chat, welcome to the channel. How are you, Max? I'm doing fantastic. Got our butts kicked out in the Outlands for a couple of hours earlier today, so now we're licking our wounds and doing a little gathering. Trying to bring the adrenaline back down a little, you know? How are you doing? What are you getting up to in the old Albion Online? That's the way I like to play it. Just like that, do a bit of everything. Otherwise you get too bogged down, it starts to get boring. Oh shoot. ABF, what's up? How are you today? Thanks for the raid. Appreciate it. How is everybody from over there doing? How's everybody's weekend? Well, this person's a butt face. Am I gonna at least get one of these? Yeah, I got one. Get wrecked. Get wrecked, nerd. Just finished our roam, had a hell of a time in the skip, have a party wiped a few times. I started out today doing a solo roam out in the black zone, in the mists, and I got 2 hours in, just getting my butt kicked. Lost a couple mil worth of silver in sets. So I decided that we were going to come relax a little bit and just do some gathering. Because ouchie. It hurts. It is definitely Friday. There are a whole lot more people running around than usual. My goodness, there are a lot more people running around. Did y'all make any good currency out there in the Ava Roads today? Or were you primarily out there looking for fame and stuff? No fun fights, but you get good objective loot. Well, that's good. Oh, actually, I need to get this. 40 to 55 mil total in loot, plus some silver bags. Nice. Is that per person, or is that for the whole Rome party? I assume it's for the whole Rome party. And how many of you were there? I never do any group content, so I'm very curious about, you know, how lucrative some of the group content and stuff can be, because I've literally never been in a group in this game. Not even one time. Oh, snap. That's a lot of fools. That's a whole lot of fools. So y'all were just running around menacing people. Yeah, thanks a lot, IBF, again for the raid. And have a great day. Don't work too hard. For those of you who came in with IBF, just to be upfront, this is probably what I'm going to be doing for the next few hours at least. I was just running around gathering in the yellow zone because I'm trying to get up to my 20% because tomorrow I hit my learning points to be able to go ahead and go up to tier 6 fiber gathering. So I don't want to keep you here doing too much boring stuff if this doesn't interest you at all. We will be talking you know, about what's going on in the game, talking about MMO games in general, and just kind of keeping up a steady stream of word vomit as we go. So if you're interested in hearing my word vomit, stick around. I ate too much peanut butter on my peanut butter and jelly tacos. I think I might be mildly allergic to peanut butter, but I don't care. I'm not going to stop eating it. It's too delicious. This is my hemp. Good wreck, nerd. I got a bunch of ache in my throat. It's hard to clear. Okay. Listen here, you. In regards to gathering, one of the things that I found as I was doing a bunch of math when the European servers launched, I pretty much just exclusively gathered for the sake of learning a little more about how to level up a gathering. I actually found that the fastest way to level up gathering at that time, that might not be true anymore, but at that time, was to just solely focus on tier 4, maybe tier 5 nodes. And just only gathered those 2 tiers. And the reason it was so effective to do it that way was because you get your specialization. And So when you get your spec up, you get increased gathering speed and increased gathering yield. And your yield is directly related to your XP, your fame, because you get fame based on how many gathers you did. So if you get, a double or a triple gather bonus, then you get double or triple XP. And your XP is closely tied to sort of how long it takes you to gather. So even though you get more fame from the higher tier nodes, A, they're harder to find, and B, they take longer to gather. And so you actually don't end up getting any extra fame from those nodes because you just gather so fast. And you have such a higher percent chance to gain more from these that it just ends up canceling out any benefit that you might get from higher tier nodes. So if you're looking to level up or tier up your gathering, it's actually fastest to do in the yellow zones by just gathering low tier nodes. I guess the one caveat to that would be if you went out into the Avalonian roads and found aspects, the little baby aspects that have like 100 picks or something like that on them, then you could actually probably do better out there. But that's very dangerous, and you would end up having to run around a lot more. So ultimately, probably not. Let's see, the base for the red ones seems to be 33 fame each, and the base for the blue ones I think is 22. But the reason you get so much value from it is whenever you get a double, you see I just got 67 there. So I got my gather bonus, which means I got double fame from that one. So they're all multipliers. So each enchantment tier is a multiplier, and then each gather bonus is a multiplier. So the base here is 22. If I get my double pick, I get 45, but if this was enchanted node, then my base here would be 45, and when I get a double pick, I'd be getting 90. And then if it was, +2, it would be 67. And then when I get a double pick, it would be 134 or something like that. And so it starts to compound really, really fast, even when you're gathering lower tier nodes. But the math on that kind of keeps going, and so you'll look at how quickly you gather. So I get 22 from each blue one I get, and I get 33 from each red one that I get. But the red ones take almost twice as long to gather as the blue ones. So I can get 2 picks on a blue in the space of time that I can get 1 pick on a red. So really, I'm getting 1.5 times or 1 1/3 times the amount of XP from the blues as I do from the reds. And so there's a little bit of a difference in, like, for example, the number of picks I can get. So because there's 5 picks on a Skyflower, technically I'm having to move around less to gain more XP. So the number of picks you have on any given node is also important. So I think that kind of balances out the fact that ultimately I actually get more per time from the blue nodes. So I think gathering red nodes is also effective, but that changes as you start getting these specialization bonuses because you get this yield and speed bonus. So you're ultimately doubling down every time you get a specialization level. you're doubling down on how much more fame you get because your fame is directly related to how fast you gather and how much you gather. And so because tier 4 is the one that you can start working on first, it's just naturally ahead by the time you get to tier 5 because you've already been picking tier 4, so you've already upped your specialization. And so you're just already gaining more from that one. And if you stick with it, then you end up gaining more and more and more. Whereas if you go up and you keep tiering up as you go, where, you know, when you're in tier 4, you gather tier 4. When you're in tier 5, you gather tier 5. When you're in tier 6, you gather tier 6. Then none of those specializations ever get anywhere. And so you're just kind of hamstringing yourself on your growth. And then once you get all the way leveled up, if you have tier 8 in a gather and you're all the way 100 spec on tier 4 or tier 5, either one, then you can actually gather for pretty much any of the gathering professions about 1,000,000 silver an hour. Just by going to a region where that particular resource is the most common resource to drop and just hard farming just that resource. Right? You get a pie, you get an Avalonian tool, a tier 8 Avalonian tool, you get your tier 8 gear so that you have just tons of gathering percent. And then you take that out into a tier 4 zone or a tier 5 zone, and you just gather the low tier stuff, and you can easily make 1,000,000 silver an hour. When you have it all maxed out, it does take a lot of time to get to the max. It takes a lot of time and a lot of learning points. But if you really want to make currency by gathering, I would just pick one and just go ham on it and use all of your learning points. Use your learning points to get yourself tiered up first, because you get such a huge boost to yield and gather speed as you go up in the tiers and start using the better equipment. And then once you get all the way up to tier 8, go ahead and start using your learning points to get your specialization. And yeah, once you get 100 specialization in a tier, then you can just use that tier to make, you know, about 1,000,000 silver an hour. I think I forgot to gather an enemy that I killed earlier. Whoops. And then you also just don't have to deal with potentially dying, which is why bringing out an Avalonian tool is so nice. Because you're not necessarily going to lose it, because they get pretty expensive in the lower tiers even. I think if I were to buy a tier 5 one, it would cost me almost 1,000,000 silver. Or maybe that was just inflated prices on the European server when we first started. But either way, you end up getting most of your currency back too, because once you tier out of the tier that you're in and move up, then you just sell on a sell order the Avalonian tool you were using and buy on a buy order a new one. And honestly, you can even kind of make currency on buying and selling your next tier. It won't be a lot, but it'll be a little. But this is why, so gathering is one of the few professions that you can do in any game, in any MMO, where you can actually make currency as you level it up. The other artisan professions, like refining and crafting, almost always happen at a loss. And the reason for that is gathering is the only one that actually takes up player time. Right? If you're leveling up your refining, refining doesn't take any of your time. You just take the resources over to the refining bench, and then you click a couple of buttons, and then bammo, instantaneously, you have your refined resources. And so because it doesn't take any player time to do that, it has no value in a player economy. It's why they added, or why they have focus in this game, because they had to create a finite resource that you could use to overcome that currency loss by giving you back a large percentage of your resources. Because otherwise refining would be completely useless to everyone. Because you would always do it at a loss. And the same thing is true of crafting. The gathered resources are just worth more than the completed item, because crafting is the same thing. You just grab up the resources that you need and take that stuff in and craft up whatever you want, which is why going through the entire loop of artisan skills, where you go and you gather your own resources and then you refine those resources and then you craft those resources, actually loses you money at each step. If you stopped at gathering and just took the, ooh, nice. I can't believe that. That's awesome. Oh, I'm so happy. I can't believe that just dropped right down in front of my face. That's never happened to me before. But, so you're losing your self-currency at each one of those steps, and only by using focus can you gain currency at each of those steps. And so because of that, you have a finite amount of currency that you can make by crafting and gathering each day. And so it's created this sort of artificial income, whereas gathering is infinite, right? As long as you can keep gathering, as long as you have time in the day, you can still make more currency gathering in a day. There's nothing stopping you from spending 24 hours doing your gathering to make currency. And so what really needs to happen is the rest of the steps need to include some sort of time. And not time like, I go over to the crafting bench and I tell it to make the item, and then it says, okay, come back in 2 days and the item will be made. That's not the kind of time I'm talking about. It needs to take player time. I need to physically be sitting there doing something to make the item craft, and it needs to take a lot of time. Right? If you think about how many resources it takes to craft a single item, like a tier 6 armor or something. So say I want to craft a tier 6 fiber armor. Well, first I have to go craft enough tier 2 to make enough tier 3 to make enough tier 4 to make enough tier 5. Then I have to gather enough tier 3 to make enough tier 4 to make enough tier 5 to make enough tier 6. Right? And so I have to go and gather all of those different steps all the way up to where I have the refined tier 6 cloth that I need. And so each item that gets made, even if it's just a really basic item, requires a pretty significant time investment. I would say of maybe 15 minutes per item, maybe a little less, maybe 5 minutes per item. And so because of that, gathering is absorbing 100% of the time sink associated with crafting, with all of the artisan skills. So 100% of the time that it should take to make an item is being absorbed by gathering. So if we take a look at, how long does it take, how many items do you get per time when you're out in the open world doing content, right? It takes, say, 2 minutes to clear one of those encampments out in the open world. And sometimes when you clear an encampment out in the open world, you get nothing but tomes. So say maybe every 2 times you clear an encampment, you get an item. Maybe 2 items. So every encampment, say, is worth an item. And you have to run around the map looking for the encampment. And then you have to actually go beat the encampment. And then you get the item. So it's still about that same 5 minutes. So you're spending 5 minutes of player time per item that you're gathering. And so that's how items are getting put into the game. And those two things actually kind of compound each other, right? Because if you sell to the black market, then you actually have to add both of those times together. The 5 minutes it took to make the item and the 5 minutes it took to do the PvE content that allowed you to get the item. Which is why the black market is always kind of the best place to sell stuff, is because the player time investment behind getting things out of the black market is higher than the player time investment of getting things out of the regular market. And so what we need to do is we need to have some of that time investment be associated with the other parts of crafting so that gathering becomes less tedious. Right now, when you gather resources, you have to gather every tier up to the tier that you want, and then you have to use all of those tiers to make those higher tiers that you want. In a gathering system where crafting absorbed part of the time, you wouldn't necessarily need that to be the case, because you don't need the extra time of gathering the lower tier resources to make the higher tier resources to absorb that time sink cost. And so instead you could make some sort of a game mode for crafting that, say, took 3 or 4 minutes for every item that you make. And because of that, we're absorbing 60 to 80% of the overall time cost of each item that gets made, because remember, it takes us about 5 minutes to make an item, to gather all the resources to make an item. And if we're absorbing 60 to 80% of that time sink in our gathering system, then we now only need to spend 1 minute gathering resources per item that we're making. Which means that the gathering system... Yeah, have a good day, Max. Thanks for stopping by and thanks for following. I really appreciate it. But you now only need to spend 1 minute gathering, which makes gathering way less tedious. It means that we could level up through the gathering tiers faster. It means we would have to spend less time doing it. Ultimately, it would reduce the value of gatherables, but it wouldn't reduce the value of the end product. Because the end product is still the item, and the item is still taking the same amount of time to make. But what would happen is, instead of 100% of the profit going to the person who gathered the resources to make the item, the profit would get spread out between gathering and crafting, where crafting would actually gain more of the profit because it absorbed more of the time, that it required to make an item, because it's taking, 60 to 80%. And so the item is still going to cost the same. The time investment is still going to be the same, but it's going to be distributed amongst more individuals. And it's going to get more people doing different stuff. Right? Right now we have quite a bit of competition over gathering materials. And materials are pretty finite because they only respawn so fast. And so you would alleviate some of that because there wouldn't need to be as many people out here gathering, because there just wouldn't be quite as much need for gatherables. Or maybe you reduce the number of gatherables available and maintain the same scarcity and maintain the same competitiveness. I really don't know what the goal there would be. Ultimately, what I would like to see in a gathering system is that we're not out here gathering skyflowers. I'm a hero, right? I am one of the strongest entities in this game world. And I'm out here gathering iron ore and picking flowers, which is the most ridiculous thing in the entire world. Right? Why am I doing that? The only reason I should be gathering resources is if they're resources that come from places that are extremely difficult to get to. Or resources that come off of monsters that are extremely difficult to kill. There's no reason for the strongest players or the strongest humans in an entire game world to be relegated to miner or herbalist or whatever, right? There are NPCs that you don't even ever have to see, that just happen to exist in the game world, that can be doing those things. And it could just all be happening behind the scenes. And so instead of making an iron sword, what the players would do would be create, an iron sword of dragon's breath or whatever, because they went and they got an ore that was only found in the belly of a flame dragon because it ate rocks and melted it into this molten, hard, interesting material to work with. And then we would use that material specifically to craft a better item than what a regular NPC artisan would be able to create, because they're only creating very basic, like iron swords or whatever. And we can just go buy one of those swords and then imbue it with this power from this other thing. And that's how we get the weapons that those of us heroes use. And so then instead of having this extremely bottable, extremely repetitive, extremely boring gathering system that involves hundreds of players spending thousands of hours running in circles, clicking on hemp and gathering hemp nodes so that you have some sort of time sink associated with making items, because you have to have a time sink. Otherwise, you would just have infinite items everywhere all the time. You have to have some way to combat that. So it has to require time. And so this has to exist. But instead of having this, you could have something else, a totally different game mode. And I personally recommend using a roguelite or roguelike game as your crafting system, and making it something that requires different skills than your main game, right? So this game is a combat game, and it's an action combat game, and so it requires action combat skills. So your crafting game should maybe be a deck builder game, or an auto battler game, or any number of other things that fall into that session-based, repeatable, it needs to be something that works within a short session right? Somewhere between, say, 5 and 30 minutes, depending on what you want your crafting system to look like. And it needs to have an end, right? You have to have a victory condition within that time period. And if you achieve that victory condition, then you get your item. And if you don't, maybe you get a worse version of your item or something like that. But it just needs to be really session-based. It needs to have some way for you to level up so that you can level up your smithing so that you can do better smithing in the future. It needs some way for those levels to be expressed in your crafting. And it needs to have some form of skill expression so that the best crafters, the people who are the best at that game mode, are the ones who are sought after to make the best items. And if you have all those things, then you will have a really good crafting system that doesn't need a monotonous bullshit gathering system to go with it to make it work and not totally crash your economy. Because that's what would happen. If we didn't have this bullshit gathering system, there would be no economy. Everybody would just be able to print whatever equipment they wanted, and the whole game would collapse. So, I mean, it's kind of funny. The absolute most boring part of a game is the only reason that the game economy doesn't totally collapse. It's totally fine to have deterministic crafting where I can guaranteed make the item that I want every single time without any RNG input if it takes up my player time to do it. Because player time has value, so you're creating an economy by using player time. It's why economies before crafting systems worked just fine, because you had RNG drop rates, and so there was a certain amount of time associated with killing the enemies that you actually needed to kill to get the drop, and then a time associated with the RNG values for how often that item dropped. So you could control, okay, it's going to take X number of hours for this item to drop, and so it's going to have X value because it's going to be X rare. Well, the same thing is true here, right? If in order to get a legendary weapon, you have to get a certain score in this game mode that you're playing for crafting, then you create the same scarcity because it takes time and skill, but you're creating that scarcity because it takes time and skill, not because you've created some arbitrary, repeat this content over and over and over again, and maybe you'll have a chance to get it. Or repeat this gathering content over and over and over again, and then craft with this terrible RNG crafting system where you just, you go into a menu and it's just menu simulator. And you just click all these garbage buttons, and then you craft 1,000 items, and one of them happened to be perfect, and so now you have a perfect item. And the time associated with that is all the time it took to gather all the resources that eventually turned into that perfect item. It would also mean that, so right now, we know what the drop rates for things are, right? We know how long it takes to make an item, and we know what the value of that time is very specifically. And what I mean by that is, because we know what the RNG drop rates of certain items are, and because we know how many of an item you need to craft before you're likely to get a perfect one, we know exactly what the value of an item is. And so there's no difference between the value of the resources required to get the item and the end value of the item. So the only way you make currency when you operate in a crafting economy in the way that crafting works right now is that you get lucky through RNG, giving you the item that you're looking for before the published percent chance. So if there's a 0.1% chance that crafting a tier 8 item in this game gives you a masterpiece, and I don't know what the actual number is. Say there's a 0.1% chance that crafting a tier 8 spear would give you a masterpiece spear. We know exactly how many resources it takes to make a spear, so we know exactly how many resources it takes to make 1,000 spears, so we know exactly how many resources it takes to get a mastercraft spear. And so that is the price of a mastercraft tier 8 spear, is however many resources it takes to craft 1,000 spears, because there's no player time associated with crafting 1,000 spears. You just click the button, and then bam, you have 1,000 spears. And so, in this RNG system, the value of the gatherables is always going to equal the value of the item. So the only way you make currency by crafting that mastercraft spear is if you get lucky and it only takes you 950 spears to get your mastercraft. And then you make 50 spears worth of profit because it took you less than that 1,000 hours or that 1,000 resources. And it's even worse than that because we also know how much each of those other 999 spears cost. So we know that you're getting some of your value back. And that's a big reason that things depreciate, because we know that you're going to make 1,000 spears to make a mastercraft, and that mastercraft is going to have some extra value. So all of the spears that you make up to that mastercraft actually have less value than the gatherables required to make them because of the profit potential of the mastercraft one that eventually you're going to get. So if you don't keep crafting until you get the mastercraft, you lose currency on every spear you make, because you're only going to make profit off of the best one. So the barrier to entry is also much higher, because you have to be able to reach that payout in order to make profit. And so in a crafting system that has skill expression, that stops being the case. Skill becomes valuable, because it's no longer going to take 1,000 crafts to craft the best item. It's going to take however many crafts it takes you to be able to craft the item. So if the average person, right, the average player, is only good enough to quote-unquote win the game mode, say 1 out of every 10 times, to get the best version of the item they're making, then your skill at the game and being able to complete it within, say, 7 tries means that you're going to earn currency based on your skill at that game mode, not based on your luck with RNG. So your ability to do better than everyone else is going to directly equate to currency in your pocket, which is why I think it's important that in this game mode, the skills required be different than the skills required for the regular game, right? So this is a PvP combat game, right? An action combat top-down kind of a thing. And so if the same skills that are expressed in being the best at the regular game mode are also the skills expressed in being the best at the crafting game mode, then the same players are the best at everything. And so they're the ones making all the currency and sort of setting all the standards. And you don't really want that. You want to spread that out a little bit. And so you want the game mode. So if you have an action combat system like this, then maybe you want some sort of deck building, Slay the Spire style game. If your game is expressing some other skills, then maybe you want, an action combat, like dungeon crawler type of deal. for your crafting system. But whatever it is, your crafting game mode needs to be different enough from your primary game mode that different players are going to be good at it, so that different players can benefit from their skill. So ultimately, you need to make 2 games. And I mean, one of them doesn't have to be terribly complicated, right? Roguelites and roguelikes are not super complicated games. They're typically developed by single people or small development teams. They don't take tons of time to create. So the other thing you could look at is making a different game mode for every type of crafting. So then you could even get crazier with it, where, the best weaponsmith isn't going to be also the best armorsmith, because the weaponsmithing game and the armorsmithing game are totally different, which would be crazy. You could make PvP versions of it. We mentioned using auto battlers, right? You could potentially make people fight each other, and then the item that you get would be based on the characters you used during the auto battler fight. So if you were trying to make an armor that had, lightning resist and some other stuff, then you would pick certain champions during your auto battler play and try and make that item while still trying to win the PvP encounter, right, and be the number 1, because your item is going to be based off of the champions that you make, and so the longer you last, the better the champions are that you have, and so the better the item that you're going to end with. So that could be a really interesting thing for something that you were doing, maybe for your weapon crafting, maybe for accessory crafting or something like that. So really good accessories might end up being even more rare. I don't know, but it has to be something that absorbs player time and has skill expression. And then you'll have a good market. A market that was based on that stuff would almost never collapse, especially if you had a way to take items out of the game, like this game does, where items can trash when you die. Because now there would be just this infinite need for good items. And so those crafter players would just always have something to be doing. So durability systems or crashing systems or whatever need to exist to keep that economy rolling. And I talk about this a lot, and I know I've talked about it a bunch of times already, but it's one of the last things that needs really good innovation in MMO games. I think it's a huge problem, and a huge part of why MMOs feel so repetitive is that they have to be to keep you playing, and to keep you from getting 100% of your absolute best power just for free. And so I think a good PvP system to work as endgame, because you want players going and fighting each other for endgame, because that's dynamic. That content changes without any input from the developer. The developer doesn't have to do anything for PvP engagements to continue to be interesting. I mean, look at League of Legends. We've been running around on the same rift, playing 5v5s for over a decade now. And everybody still loves it. It's still a great game. It's still very popular. And I don't think that's going anywhere. And so, having a good PvP system like that is a great way to keep people engaged in the end game, and then having a reason for those people to need to keep buying gear is a great way to keep your crafters and your gatherers and your economy moving. And then you just make it so that that good PvP system is accessible from very early on and is tiered so that lower tier players aren't just fighting against higher tier players. Because if your PvP system hits everybody against everybody, then your PvP system is only an endgame system. Because I can't be in the lowest tier of play and fight someone in the highest tier of play. So I have to get to the highest tier of play to engage in that system because you've left it open-ended. So it needs to have spaces for everybody of all the different tiers to only interact with people of a similar tier of power to them. And that's one of the things that Albion does really poorly, is their PvP system is completely open-ended. And so it is only an endgame system. Whether you want to go out there in 4.1 and rat or not, and you can say, oh, well, you can just go out there and wait for somebody to almost be dead and then kill them. It's not engaging with the PvP system. That's working around the PvP system to gain wealth, which is fine. If that's interesting to you, you should go do that. But that's not a good PvP system. That's a bad PvP system. Because it encourages people to play in an extremely disingenuous manner. It encourages people to play in a way that attempts to manipulate the other players around them. And it's just not fun at all. And it associates 100% of the risk with the player who's actively engaging in PvE. And so there's virtually no risk to the low tier player who's just waiting for you to be in a bad position to attack. Because that person's out there in extremely low tier gear, just waiting for you to mess up. And then if you manage to kill them, great, you earn 50k because they had nothing on them. But if they manage to kill you, you lose millions. And you also lose everything that you earned from that PvE encounter you were just in. So you're motivating people to not engage in the PvE content and just go try and kill other players who are engaging in the PvE content. And that's really bad game design. So you want tiered play. You want a system where players have some sort of safety net. If I'm engaging in PvE content and I get attacked, I need to have recourse to save myself. Because you want people to be engaging in your PvE content. So there are a couple of things that could be done to alleviate some of that. Number one is extending the faction system out into the Black Zone. If you extend the faction system out into the Black Zone, then when I'm being attacked, when I'm out there, there is potential that I can make it to someone else in my faction who can help me kill whoever's attacking me. Right, so I have an opportunity to save myself there. I have a little bit of a safety net. And that safety net grows the closer I am to my faction's portal town, which is important. Another safety net might be some sort of a speed boost or a cooldown boost or something like that. When you get attacked by a PvP opponent while engaged in PvE, so that maybe you can run away to try and get your reset, so that you can then fight on more even terms. I don't know, but something needs to be done to alleviate the sort of absolute way that you have to play. Because if you're going to go do PvE content in the Outlands, then there are a very small number of builds that you can use to do that that will help you be safe. Because you just have to have good mobility so that when somebody jumps on you, you can escape them. And so I think something that you probably want to do is you want to apply that mobility to as many builds as you possibly can, but on a conditional basis. So, on a conditional basis, so it only works when you get engaged in PvP while engaged with PvE. Because you want to be able to have those people escape more often than not. It's been like an hour straight of me talking. Holy cow. I didn't realize I'd been going for so long. Sometimes I get up on my soapbox and I just get going. And I just can't stop. But it's because I'm extremely passionate about MMO games. I've been playing MMOs my whole life. They are the pinnacle of gaming, in my opinion. But they've become very stagnant. And they've become very repetitive. They've become very bad. We just kind of keep making the same game over and over again. And all of the systems that we incorporate are just designed to get you to be logged in as much as possible during the day with as little effort as possible. And I think that's really the problem. Things like RNG are a really low effort way to keep a person playing the game. If you could just get the items that you wanted from killing an enemy one time, then your interaction with the game world would drop significantly. And so the amount of money that a company could get out of you would drop pretty significantly. And so a lot of game systems are designed to hold you in the game. And because we don't want to spend extra money making those systems interesting, by trying to keep you in the game, because there's just so much content to do that you don't ever want to leave, we instead create extremely repetitive garbage, and then say, you know, if you want your character to be as powerful as they possibly can be, you need to beat this extremely repetitive content 1,000 times. And that's the only way that you can get this weapon that you really need. to go do the next bit of content 1,000 times. And there is some enjoyment in that, right? If players didn't enjoy grinding up gear to make their characters stronger, then obviously those games would never succeed. The problem is that's the lowest possible form of enjoyment that we can get from these games. There is so much more potential to be had. And just because we're enjoying what we have, and just because we play what we have, doesn't mean that there isn't something out there that's better, right? I could eat a cheese pizza and really enjoy cheese pizza and be totally fine having cheese pizza. And if nobody ever put a pepperoni on top of pizza for the entirety of human existence, I would eat cheese pizza because it's tasty. But that doesn't mean that somebody shouldn't have gone, this cheese pizza is great. But what if I slice this pepperoni real thin and stick that on top? How would that taste? And now we have pepperoni pizza. And now we also have things like pineapple pizza, which, questionable. But at least somebody went, I like pepperoni pizza, but what if I put some pineapples on it? And at least they gave it a shot, and some people really like it, and that's great. But in the MMO space, nobody's putting pineapple on pizza. Everybody's just throwing out cheese pizzas all day long. And it's kind of getting old. I'm going to keep eating them. Because it's still cheese pizza. It's better than starving to death. But gosh darn it. Can we put some pineapples on that shit? I wish that I had the technical skill required to actually make video games. And I could learn those skills. They would just take a really long time. And then also you can't really make the game that I want to make by yourself. So I would have to join a company and get that company to want to make the game that I want to make. And I just don't think I'm charismatic enough to be the guy that company comes to for the idea. You know what I mean? I don't know. %17 of the way there. 3% to go. My goodness. I keep wanting to harp on other game systems instead of just yelling about crafting systems. But other game systems are all just really good. People innovate a lot with different ways to advance your characters. Different skill systems, different ways to mix and match skills, different deck building concepts with equipment and stats and skills and skill points. And we've done a bunch of different stuff with the deck building aspects or the character building aspects of MMORPG games. But unfortunately, we have done absolutely nothing with the crafting aspects of those games. And we've done a lot with the combat systems in those games as well. Combat in MMOs is like an all-time awesome. What does it take? 4K silver to teleport back? Let's do it. We have great action combat systems. We have great tab targeting combat systems. We have Souls-like combat systems. I mean, we got combat systems coming out of our wahoos. It's insane how many different types of combat we have access to.
Made a profit?
But that's not everything there is. I'd like to see better crafting and maybe some more innovative, like, dungeoning and stuff. I don't know. That's really hard. And that's really going to be an advancement in AI. Because until you have better AI systems that can adapt in combat, then you're just going to have really repetitive dungeons and really repetitive PvE content. And we've tried to overcome that by doing what Albion Online does, which is try and mix your PvE and PvP. So your PvE experience is pretty much always the same, but it gets interrupted by these moments of PvP, and it has this tension associated with it because of the potential for PvP that you can't really anticipate. And because of that, it doesn't seem nearly as boring and repetitive as it is. But it is just the same boring, repetitive PvE content. And because we use PvP to try and spice that up, people are ending up in a very huge disadvantage in their PvP engagements, if they're engaging at all with the PvE content. So it's it's a very bad way, I think, to make PvE interesting, to incorporate PvP. I think those two things need to be very much separated, because you can't have a fair fight in a situation where you're getting third-partied like that. Right? Like, I'm completing this objective, and this objective is important to the economy of the game, right? I need to be doing this stuff. And if nobody's doing it, then the economy of the game is going to suffer. But by doing this content that the game needs me to do, I'm leaving myself vulnerable, is a really bad way to spice up PvE. So you want to have PvP that is sort of separated from everything else. And I think even maybe separated from, like, the economy and all that stuff. I think PvP should more be focused on like cosmetics and renown instead of the actual power of your character. But that's something we'll maybe discuss in the future. I think I'm probably going to end this morning stream here. We got our butts kicked pretty hard this morning, but we still had a pretty good time. We're getting closer to being able to tier up our fiber crafting, which is going to be something that happens tomorrow, so we'll finally be tier 6 on the fiber crafting, which means we're getting closer and closer and closer to that tier 8, which is going to help us make a lot more currency out in the open world. So thanks everybody for coming by. Thanks again, IBF, for the raid. I really appreciate that. And yeah, thanks everyone. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you the next time. We'll be back in about 5.5 hours for the night stream, where we will probably go out into the open world some more. We'll do some more gathering. Actually, we'll probably start with gathering and then go into the open world, because things will die down out there. And then there won't be so many people beating the crap out of me. So that'll be fun. But yeah, thanks a lot. Hope everybody